Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to really get into a fascinating piece of source material. It takes us right into the heart of a pretty intense courtroom drama.
That's right. We're looking at excerpts from a transcript, specifically one discussing Part 24 of Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov.
And these insights, they come from a discussion sourced via the channel Sahil Outsider.
And it's a pivotal moment we're diving into, really significant. It's the very start of Dmitry Karamazov's trial.
Accused of killing his own father, Fyodor Pavlovich. Parricide.
Exactly. And the material we have, it really lays out the scene, Who's there, the first few testimonies, the atmosphere. It's all incredibly dramatic right from the get-go.
So our mission for this deep dive, and we're sticking strictly to the details in these specific excerpts, is to unpack what happens right at the beginning of this trial.
Yeah, we want to explore the whole vibe, the unexpected characters, the stories that clash.
And maybe what it tells us about people, about human nature, as this whole legal battle kicks off.
Definitely. And it's important to note, just before we step into that courtroom setting, the source material mentions something really shocking that's just happened.
No, right, the news about Smerdyakov.
Yes, Smerdyakov, Fyodor's illegitimate son, a really key figure. He's dead. He hanged himself.
And Ivan Karamazov's reaction to hearing this, it's described as pretty disturbing in the source, isn't it?
Deeply unsettling, yeah.
Yeah.
Alexei's the one who tells him. Something like, Smerdyakov hanged himself. He's dead.
And Ivan just stares.
Just looks at Alexei silent. His eyes are described as, well, incomprehensible. And then, bam, he just collapses.
Passes out cold right there.
Right there. Alexei manages to get him onto a bed, tries to revive him, wet towel on the face, the usual things.
And when it comes to?
He's described as being in this feverish state, almost delirious. The source actually calls it a fever of the brain.
A fever of the brain, wow. And in that state, he starts talking.
He launches into this rambling monologue, and it's about conscience. He's basically saying it's all nonsense.
What, like conscience isn't real?
Pretty much. He says, it's all just habit, a habit, because we've heard since childhood that there's a soul inside us that judges all nonsense.
So he's arguing it's just learned behavior, societal conditioning.
Exactly that. He insists society has conditioned us. It's a habit. He's trying to tear down the whole idea of an internal moral compass, suggesting any guilt is just, imposed from outside, not from within.
That's incredibly bleak, especially coming from Ivan, who's been wrestling with so much himself.
It really is. And Alexei, bless him, he's just trying to care for Ivan, trying to soothe him, telling him to relax, applying the cold towel, simple acts of care.
It's very typical Alexei.
Completely. And after Ivan finally falls into this, troubled sleep, Alexei lies down nearby and prays.
Prays for Smerdyakov, too.
Yes, for peace, for Smerdyakov's soul, but also for Ivan. For his health, sure, but also for peace for his mind, which is clearly just shattering.
So this intense private moment of breakdown and compassion happens right before the very public trial begins.
Right? A really stark contrast, this raw internal anguish, and then we transition to this huge public spectacle.
Okay, let's make that transition. Stepping into the courtroom, the sources make it clear this isn't just any trial.
Oh, absolutely not. The case is huge. It's become famous across all of Russia.
Yeah.
People are flocking to see it.
The crowd size reflects that.
Massively.
Yeah.
Described as 10 times larger than usual. You really get a sense of this intense public fascination, this almost hunger for the drama.
And it's not just ordinary folk crowding in.
No, the source emphasizes the who's who nature of the audience. It's the elite. Prominent figures, wealthy people, businessmen, top lawyers, judges.
Yeah.
The upper crust of society is there. This is a major event.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting based on the source. The attitudes in the crowd towards Dmitry, they're split, right, based on gender.
Yeah, this is a fascinating detail highlighted in the material. The women in the audience, they mostly believe Dmitry did kill his father.
They think he's guilty.
They do. But, and this is the twist, they have a soft corner for him. They actually want him to get a lighter sentence or even be acquitted entirely.
A soft corner. For a man they think committed parricide. Why? What's the reasoning given?
The source digs into this. It seems to be about his personality. They see him as charming, daring, a risk taker. The classic bad boy appeal, maybe.
Okay, so surface level attraction, the charm, the strength. Yeah. He's described as physically strong too, isn't he?
Yes. Physically strong, spends money lavishly, brave, all that. But it's deeper, too, apparently. They're drawn to his emotional
The
intensity.
emotional side.
Yeah, he cries easily. His emotions are like a storm, is the phrase used. But he's also a man of action, someone who acts on impulse. This mix of vulnerability and potent energy, they admire it.
So they see him as, what was the quote? A bad man, but daring and courageous.
That's the one. This complex, turbulent figure captures their sympathy, even though they suspect his guilt.
That's extraordinary. A whole section of the audience basically rooting against what they believe to be the truth.
What about the complete opposite, according to the sources? They dislike Dmitri. Plain and simple.
And the reason?
Jealousy. Explicitly stated, they feel jealous.
Jealous of a man on trial for murder. Why?
It seems to come down to his physical presence and his effect on women. He's strong, attractive, commands attention, and this makes the other men feel inferior. That's the word used in the source.
Feeling inferior makes them hostile.
Apparently so. This resentment, this jealousy fuels their attitude towards him.
And what's they want to see happen to them?
They want the harshest possible sentence. A double sentence, even the death penalty. The source directly links this desire for extreme punishment to their feelings of jealousy.
Wow. So the courtroom isn't just about law. It's this hotbed of personal feelings, attraction, resentment, jealousy,
Yeah,
all swirling around the defendant.
exactly. It shows how subjective everything can be, and the source kind of sums it up by saying everyone, regardless of their feelings, is there out of curiosity. They see it as pure drama.
A public spectacle. Okay, so the trial proper begins. Dmitri enters. How's he described?
Proudly. Walks with his chest out, straight ahead, not looking around, goes right to the dock. Not like a man hiding, more like defiant.
And then he gets the news about Smerdyakov. Right there in court.
Yes, in front of everyone. And his reaction is, well, pure Dmitri. Immediate, impulsive, loud.
Loud how? What does he say?
He literally shouts, apparently roaring. He yells, "Good, the dog died, the dog died. What does it matter? He died."
Calling Smerdyakov a dog. In open court.
Yes. This incredibly insulting term for the man who might have been the alternative suspect, it's just this raw, explosive outburst. Relief, maybe? Vindication? Hard to say, but totally uncontrolled.
That must have caused chaos. How did the judges react?
They jump in immediately, tell him to control his language, control his voice, remind him sharply, this is not your home, you are standing in a courtroom trying to regain order.
And his own lawyer. The one trying to save him.
Panicked, basically. The source highlights his immediate concern. This outburst is terrible for the defense. The lawyer warns him, don't say such things. Don't be so emotional like a child. Use your brain a little.
He's practically begging Dmitri to stop hurting his own case.
You can feel the desperation. Dmitri's volatility is making the lawyer's job almost impossible. He keeps proving the prosecution's point about his instability.
Which leads us to the witnesses, right?
Yeah.
The defense lawyer has a big job trying to counter the testimony against Dmitri.
A huge job. And the strategy that emerges based on these sources is really focused on attacking the credibility of the witnesses.
Not just disputing the facts, but undermining the people telling the stories.
Exactly. Questioning their honesty, their motives, even their state of mind. Let's look at the first one the source mentions, Grigory.
The old servant who raised Dmitri.
That's him. And his appearance is emotional from the start. He seems torn, talking about his connection to Dmitri.
Reminding the court of their history.
Yeah, saying, I raised him like a child. I bathed him with my own hands. I used to delouse his head. Really painting a picture of that early bond. Despite everything, you feel his affection, even now.
But his testimony is still damaging, isn't it? He accuses Dmitri directly regarding the night of the murder.
He does. His key evidence is about the attack on himself. He states clearly that Dmitri hit him on the head with an iron pestle near Fyodor's house that night. A direct eyewitness account of violence.
How does Dmitri react to hearing Grigory say this?
With genuine regret, it seems. He calls out, expressing sorrow. I feel great sorrow. I am sorry. It was my fault. I was perhaps not in my senses.
Another emotional display.
Yes, but this time remorse. He even says he's happy. Grigory is okay and asks for forgiveness. I am happy that you are safe and sound. Forgive me.
And Grigory leaves, still feeling for Dmitri.
The source says he leaves with tears in his eyes, still showing that soft corner. It just highlights the tragedy of it all, this deep personal connection between the accused and a key witness against him.
So, Grigory gives this crucial testimony about the attack. How does the defense lawyer try to neutralize it?
By attacking Grigory's reliability. The argument is Grigory was drunk that night.
Drunk? How do they prove that?
They call Grigory's wife Marfa. She testifies she gave Grigory a medicinal drink for his aches and pains, and this drink, based on her description, had a fair bit of alcohol in it. She even calls it like wine.
So the defense uses this admission of intoxication.
Absolutely. Grigory's testimony partly relies on things he claims he saw that night, like whether a garden door was open or shut, details potentially crucial to the murder scene. The defense lawyer argues, quite vividly, that if someone's drunk enough to, quote, see the gates of heaven open, then how can you trust them to accurately remember if a mundane door was open or closed?
See the gates of heaven open.
Ah!
That's strong imagery.
It is. It's designed to make Grigory seem completely out of it. So the lawyer concludes, because he was so intoxicated, his testimony about what he saw is unreliable, worthless.
So discredit the witness due to his state. Clever. Who's next? Rakitin.
Yes, Rakitin. And the source paints a pretty negative picture of him. Nihilist, negative, sarcastic, arrogant. Mainly seems desperate to appear intelligent and well-read, always bringing up big issues like poverty, social inequality.
Show off.
Seems like it. And his testimony against Dmitri is described as very aggressive. He basically blames Dmitri outright for the murder.
Does he offer evidence or just opinion?
He points to Dmitri's past actions as proof of his violent nature. He brings up the public beating of Captain Snegiryov.
Right, kicking him in the face. Horrible incident.
Exactly. And also the time Dmitri broke in and attacked his own father just days before the murder. Rakitin uses these to argue Dmitri is mentally unstable, aggressive, impulsive, essentially a killer waiting to happen. He calls him a foolish man.
So he's building a character case and trying to impress the court while doing it.
Totally. Quoting writers, talking about social issues. He even tells the judge not to take his words lightly because he's such an intelligent man. It's quite a performance.
A mix of animosity and ego?
Mm-hmm.
How does the defense handle him? Same strategy?
Similar idea, yes. Attack the witness's credibility. But here, it's about his moral character, not intoxication. They expose something specific he did.
What's the accusation?
The lawyer accuses Rakitin of making a deal with Grushenka. Apparently, he agreed to bring Alexei to her house in exchange for 25 rubles, basically acting as a paid go-between.
25 rubles, that's kind of petty. How does Rakitin react to being called out on this?
He gets flustered, defensive, tries to deny it, insults Grushenka. What kind of woman is she that she can buy me? Tries to make it sound absurd that he, Rakitin, such an intelligent man, could be bought so cheaply. He calls it a personal matter.
But the lawyer presses him.
Oh, yeah. Cuts right through the bluster. Just tell us, did you make a deal for 25 rubles or not? Rakitin can't deny it, because it's true. The source says he falters, looks down, he's caught.
And the defense uses this admission
to argue he's fundamentally untrustworthy. If someone sells himself for 25 rubles, can you believe anything he says, especially when he's attacking someone else? It undermines his entire testimony, making him look hypocritical and mercenary, despite his intellectual posturing.
Another witness discredited. Meanwhile, Dmitri's listening to all of this about himself, about Grushenka.
And predictably, he explodes again, especially hearing Rakitin talk about Grushenka in that context. He starts shouting at Rakitin.
What does he yell?
Calls him a swindler, a hypocrite, threatens him. Don't talk nonsense. I will shove your tongue down your throat. Just completely loses it.
Oh, boy. And the court? Judges, lawyers?
Same reaction as before. Try to calm him down. What are you doing? Be quiet. Talk with respect. Look where you're standing. Reminders about decorum.
His poor defense lawyer.
Must be pulling his hair out. The source describes his frustration. He scolds Dmitri, basically saying, you're proving their point. You're showing everyone right now how emotionally unstable you are. It's incredibly self-destructive.
That impulsive nature again. Admired by some, but disastrous in court. So this pattern of attacking witness credibility continues.
Yes. The sources mention a few others briefly following the same pattern.
Like Captain Snegiryov, the man Dmitri beat up.
Yes, he's called. But he's described as distressed, mentions his son Ilyusha is dying partly due to the shame from the beating. He says he's forgiven Dmitri and just wants out of it because of his grief.
So he doesn't really testify against Dmitri in the murder context.
Not directly about the murder night, it seems. But his presence and story are a powerful reminder of Dmitri's past violence. The crowd is moved, he's excused. It adds to the overall picture, though.
Okay. Then there's Trifon, the guest house owner from that wild party.
Right. He testifies, calls Dmitri dissolute, talks about him wasting the 3,000 rubles, implies he's a bad sort who probably did kill his father.
And the defense counter.
Accuses Trifon himself of theft, petty theft again. claims Trifon stole 20 rubles that Dmitri dropped during the party, and crucially claims the Polishman saw it happen.
Does Trifon deny it?
The source says his face turned red with shame, suggesting it's true. So the lawyer argues, how can you trust a thief's testimony in a murder trial? Another witness's character attacked.
And the Polish men, who supposedly witnessed this, they testify too.
Yes, they also blame Dmitri. One is mentioned as Grushenka's ex-lover, adding a potential motive for bias.
And the defense angle against them.
Accuses them of cheating at cards during that same party at Trifon's, and they apparently admit it was true. So their credibility is shot down too because they're admitted cheats.
So it's a consistent strategy.
Yeah.
Find a flaw, an inconsistency, a past misdeed, and use it to cast doubt on everything the witness says against Dmitri.
That's exactly the picture painted by these sources. Grigori's drunkenness, Rakitin's mercenary deal, Trifon's theft, the Poles' cheating, it's all used to suggest these accusers are unreliable narrators.
Okay, after dealing with these character witnesses and their credibility, the trial moves to expert testimony, right? The doctors.
Yes, focusing on Dmitri's mental state. This is obviously crucial. Was he sane? Insane. And the sources highlight 3 doctors offering very different opinions.
3 experts, 3 different takes. Let's hear with the first one, the elderly doctor.
This doctor believes Dmitri is mentally unstable. But his reasoning, it's a bit strange, as reported.
How so?
It's based on observing Dmitri in the courtroom. He noticed Dmitri wasn't looking at the women in the audience. Since Dmitri usually likes women, the doctor found this abnormal and took it as a sign of instability.
Seriously, that's his medical basis, whether he looked at the women?
That's what the source suggests was presented. It feels very subjective, doesn't it? Not exactly clinical.
Not really. What about the second doctor?
This one also leans towards instability. Suggests maybe temporary insanity, like a fit of rage caused a murder, if he did it, but adds another layer.
Which is?
The potential for a deep insanity lurking within Dmitri. Not just temporary rage, but an underlying capacity for serious mental illness that could emerge any time.
So, a much more serious potential diagnosis.
Yeah.
A fundamental flaw. And the third doctor?
Completely contradicts the other two. Says Dmitri is completely normal.
Normal. How does this doctor explain the violence, the outbursts, the alleged crime?
Simple. Alcohol. This doctor argues Dmitri just drank too much, lost his senses, got into a strange rage. That is why the murder happened. It's all attributed to intoxication, not underlying illness.
And the point about not looking at the women, does this doctor address that?
Yes, directly dismisses it. Says the first doctor's reasoning makes no sense, offers a much more practical explanation.
What is?
That Dmitri was probably focused on the judges and lawyers in front of him, the people deciding his fate, which would be perfectly normal behavior for someone taking their trial seriously. It shows focus, not instability.
So you got instability based on not looking at women, instability possibly temporary or deep, and complete normalcy attributed to drunkenness. What a mess for the court to sort out.
It really highlights the challenge, doesn't it? Even the experts disagree fundamentally on how to interpret Dmitri's behavior and state of mind. It leaves you wondering, what is the truth here?
Absolutely. Now, after this conflicting medical stuff, the source describes something really unexpected and emotional involving that first elderly doctor again.
Yes, this is a remarkable moment. It shifts the whole tone. The elderly doctor is called back, but this time he shares a personal story about Dmitri.
A story from the past.
Decades ago, he recalls meeting Dmitri as a little boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. He saw this neglected, uncared-for child and felt sorry for him.
And he did something.
A simple act of kindness. He gave the boy a pound of nuts, almonds, walnuts, that kind of
It's
thing.
just a bag of nuts.
Seems small, right? But the doctor describes the boy's reaction as overwhelming joy. He'd clearly never received such a gift, especially from his father Fyodor, who ignored him. The boy was ecstatic, and he never forgot it.
Never forgot the nuts.
Apparently not. The doctor then tells of meeting Dmitri again much later, maybe 20 or 25 years later. Dmitri is now this big, strong man. He recognizes the doctor, embraces him, and just starts weeping.
Weeping? Why?
Out of gratitude for the nuts from all those years ago, Dmitri apparently said something like, "You are the same uncle who gave me half a kilo of nuts when I was a child."
He remembered the amount even. Half a kilo.
Exactly, and he explained why it meant so much. "No one ever loved me this much. My father never gave me anything. You gave me half a kilo of nuts. I am grateful to you." He was overcome, remembering this single act of kindness in a childhood starved of affection.
And the doctor telling this story in court.
He's crying as he recounts it. He even tells the judge, "I also cried, Judge Sahib," remembering Dimitri's tears back then. And as he's telling this,
Dmitri reacts.
Dimitri, standing in the dock, starts crying too. He confirms the story, calls out his thanks again through tears. "I am still grateful for your half a kilo of nuts. Dr. Sahib, I'm still grateful."
Good heavens. The emotional impact in that courtroom must have been immense.
Huge. The source calls it a big emotional moment. Says the whole crowd became emotional. Everyone had light tears in their eyes. This incredibly human story cuts through all the legal arguments about sanity and guilt.
It just completely reframes Dmitri for a moment, doesn't it? It shows this deep vulnerability beneath the bad boy or the unstable man image.
Exactly. It reminds everyone he's a product of profound neglect, capable of holding on to gratitude for a tiny kindness for decades. It complicates the picture immensely, makes him more tragic, more human.
A truly powerful moment amidst the legal maneuvering. And the source indicates this isn't the end, teasing that Katerina and Alexei are about to testify.
Yes, their arrival is flagged as bringing a big change. Given their complex relationships with Dmitri, their testimony is bound to stir things up even more.
We'll definitely have to dive into that next time. So let's wrap up this part. What are the main takeaways from this initial stage of the trial, based on our sources?
Well, we've seen the intense public interest and how that public opinion is really colored by subjective things like attraction and jealousy, not just facts.
Right, the stark difference between the men's and women's views.
And we saw the defense's clear strategy. Systematically attack the credibility of anyone testifying against Dmitri. Focus on their flaws, drunkenness, dishonesty, greed.
Undermine the messenger. We also saw the complete disagreement among the medical experts about Dmitri's sanity.
Which really throws into question how objective those assessments can be. And then perhaps most powerfully, that unexpected emotional moment with the doctor and the nuts.
Showing how a trial isn't just about logic and law, but also raw human feeling that can suddenly shift the atmosphere.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? In trying to find justice, how do you weigh these things? The lawyer's clever arguments versus that moment of genuine shared emotion. The disputed facts versus the undeniable human story.
And how much do those background biases, the jealousy, the admiration, the differing medical viewpoints influence how you, the listener or the jury back then, perceive Dimitri's guilt or innocence, regardless of the actual evidence?
You get these conflicting images presented. The violent brute, the charming rogue, the drunken fool, the unstable patient, and this deeply wounded child still grateful for a handful of nuts.
Which picture feels most real? Which aspects seem most compelling as you try to understand this incredibly complex character at this critical point?
It's the core challenge, really, seeing the multifaceted person behind the legal arguments and the public projections.
And as we heard, the drama is set to intensify, with Katerina and Alexei waiting in the wings. Their arrival promises significant shifts.
Absolutely. Their perspectives will add crucial new dimensions to this already complex trial. We'll definitely unpack that in our next deep dive into the Brothers Karamazov.